So here's a thought. What if the government just got out of the marriage business entirely? Today, we're jumping into a really provocative idea from the book Nudge, which suggests that privatizing marriage could actually solve one of the most polarizing debates of our time.
This question is a big one, right? Who gets to define what marriage is? It's all tangled up in law, religion, personal freedom. But the authors of Nudge argue that this whole conflict really comes from a basic confusion about what the state's role should even be in the first place.
They say the problem isn't the debate itself, but the system. The core issue is the state. Right now, government-run marriage is this old, kind of clunky system that mashes together legal status and symbolic meaning. And that creates all this unnecessary conflict for pretty much everyone. So let's break that down. What really is a marriage in the eyes of the law? Well, it's basically a package deal. On one hand, you get this whole suite of legal and material benefits, but on the other, you get this official, symbolic stamp of approval from the government. And it's the bundling of those two things, the practical and the symbolic, that, they argue, causes all the trouble.
So how do you untangle that knot? Well, the book proposes a surprisingly simple and, a very libertarian solution. The big idea is to completely separate the government side of things from the private, ceremonial part of marriage.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you see our system today, where the government licenses marriage, which is both a legal contract and a symbolic thing. Now look at the right. In the proposal, the government stops licensing marriage completely. Instead, it would only offer civil unions, a purely legal contract available to any two people. The word, the ceremony, the whole idea of marriage, that would be left entirely to private and religious groups to define however they want.
The goal here is pretty much a win-win situation. Religious organizations get the total freedom to define and perform marriages based on their beliefs, with no government saying otherwise. And, at the same time, any couple, no matter their orientation, can get the full legal rights and protections of a partnership through a civil union. The state just stops taking sides. It gets out of the business of endorsing relationships. Okay, but to really get why this separation is such a big deal, we need to unbundle what that state license actually does for you. Trust me, it's a lot more than just a piece of paper.
So what are we really talking about here? It's pretty stunning when you see it all laid out. This isn't just about getting a tax break. We're talking about the right to take medical leave for your spouse. Or, get this, the power to make life or death medical decisions for them if they can't. It's a huge package of legal rights all bundled into this one license.
But here's where the argument gets really interesting. The authors of Nudge say that once we solve the whole political fight over the word marriage, we can finally focus on a much more common, practical problem, one that's rooted in a very human, very universal bias.
We've all seen a number like this, right? Most of us know the divorce rate is high, somewhere around 50%. We know, in general, that it's a very real possibility for other people.
But look at this. When you ask people about the odds that they will get divorced, the number flips completely. Almost everyone believes they are certain, or at least almost certain, not to get divorced. This is a perfect example of what behavioral economists call unrealistic optimism. And that powerful bias has massive real-world consequences. It's exactly why almost nobody gets a prenuptial agreement, because we think divorce is something that happens to other people. We just don't prepare for it, leaving us totally vulnerable if the relationship does in fact end.
Okay, so if we're all too optimistic to plan for the worst, how can the system help protect us? Well, this gets us to the other side of the argument, using better choice architecture, or basically better rules of the game to create fairer outcomes when things don't work out. And right now, the system for divorce is, well, to put it nicely, it's a mess. The rules can be so confusing that even the experts, the lawyers, often can't predict how things will turn out. And that uncertainty is a huge problem when it runs into another very common human bias.
That would be the self-serving bias. In a messy dispute, both sides tend to believe that the fair result is the one that favors them. And when the law is a total gray area, that just leads to long and nasty, expensive court fights. But if you have clear rules, you create an anchor. Expectations become more realistic. It nudges couples towards settling. And what's so important here, these default rules can be designed to protect the more vulnerable partner and, of course, any kids involved. So the solution is to build a better system right from the start. First, you set up clear default rules that protect the vulnerable. Second, you create predictable guidelines for how things will be split up, kind of like sentencing guidelines in criminal cases. And third, you make sure every single couple understands these rules before they sign on the dotted line. The whole point is to nudge people toward fair, predictable, and way less painful resolutions.
So at the end of the day, this whole proposal from Nudge really boils down to this one fundamental question. Is it the state's job to endorse our relationships, or is its job simply to provide a fair and protective legal framework for them? It's a powerful idea and a powerful nudge to rethink what we expect from the government in our most personal affairs.